Hello and welcome. I'm glad you can join me again for the second section in this series. In the first three videos, I took a look at the report creation capabilities of the Financial Report Designer, and I used the layout generator and task pane to design two new layouts for my financial dashboard. In these remaining two videos, I'm going to turn the attention to another class of reports in Sage Intelligence, which are pivot table reports. They are referred to by this name because they make use of the powerful functionality of Excel pivot tables to present data. Furthermore, pivot charts can be used to visualize the information in the best way possible. In this video, I'm going to start by looking at some of the out-of-the-box reports typically provided in Sage Intelligence. I'll then run one of them out to show you how they work. And lastly, I'm going to add a new one of my own, which I will then use in the last video to create an operational dashboard. To begin with, I'm going to switch to my report manager. There are three pivot table reports usually provided in Sage Intelligence. These are an inventory report, purchases report, and a sales report. The exact names and their contents will be specific to your accounting package. Information on them can be found in the report descriptions document, which I showed how to access in the first series. The best way to get to grips with them, though, would be to run them out and take a closer look. I'm going to give some pointers on this using my customer sales report. Before doing so, there's two things I want to mention. First, remember that if for some reason you can't find a particular report or are in need of something specific, you should check to see if it isn't available through the report utility. The second is that apart from the two classes of reports, intelligence reporting also has different types of reports. The two most common ones are standard and union ones. A standard report is the most basic, and you can identify them by the blue icon used in the report manager. My inventory status, vendor purchases, and customer sales are examples of these. A union report is a combination of standard reports and is shown with a green icon. The report designer is an example of this. Knowing this will make some of the details I discuss later on clearer. If you would like more information on the different types, take a look in your intelligence reporting help file. Like with the report designer, my three out-of-the-box reports are also locked, so to be able to make any changes to them, I first need to make a copy. I'm going to do this to my customer sales and then click Run. You can see that as I do, I'm asked for two parameters. This is the date range of the sales I'd like to view, and I'm going to select my current year so far. Notice that in the case of date parameters, Intelligence Reporting provides a convenient date selection dialog for you to pick from. In my report, I'm presented with a home page and then the page containing my layout. You can see it's using a pivot table. It gives the total sales for each of my products grouped by customer and includes the number of items shipped, cost of sales, gross profit, and gross profit percentage. The layout also shows the date range that I ran the report out for, and it allows me to filter the pivot by item type and invoice number. In the first series, I explained when an intelligence reporting report is run, data is extracted from your accounting database and placed in the Excel workbook. In a standard report, this is always on the first sheet. It is hidden by default in any of the out-of-the-box reports. I'm going to unhide mine, and by browsing through it, you can see the full amount of data that is available to report on. You can also see that there is a second hidden sheet. This is a parameters sheet and holds a number of details about the report. For example, the report name, date and time it was run, and the parameter values I selected for it. Including it is optional, and if done so, it's always placed on the second sheet. I'll show you where to change this when I add my own report later. Apart from providing information about the report, the details in the parameters sheet can be referenced in your layouts to make them more descriptive, or even used as arguments and formulas, for example. When creating your own standard reports, it's always good to think of your first and second sheets as being reserved. You are then free to begin your layout creation from the third one onwards. Taking a look at the layout again, the pivot tables and intelligence reporting reports are created off the full set of raw data, but, like in my case, only a subset of the fields are usually used. You can view all of them by showing the pivot table fields list. From here, you can add or remove items or change the design using the different sections at the bottom of the page. With the table selected, you can also make use of the options in the Design or Analyze tabs on the Excel ribbon. For example, adding a slicer or timeline, custom field, or pivot chart. Instead of spending time demonstrating how these features can be used with this report, I'm going to move on to creating my own one. As I talked about in the first series and in the first 3 videos of this one, keeping track of your gross profit is important in maintaining your business's success. If it is not satisfactory, there are a number of measures you can take to improve it. For example, increasing your sales, lowering your inventory levels, or reducing your production costs. To maintain my gross profit and Sally's necessities, one of the measures I took was to improve my sales function by tracking the performance of my sales reps. To help with this, I've created a sales dashboard focusing on them. It's shown on the screen. It includes 3 charts, one showing my total sales by region, another showing my top 3 performing staff, and the last one, my bottom 3 performing staff. I've also added a commission calculator and made use of a timeline. With this information, I can see where to focus my attention to improve my sales. The commission calculator will also help me track what I need to pay out, and through the use of the timeline, I can conveniently zone in on one particular month. To get started with the report, I need to go back to the Report Manager. I'm first going to add a folder for it called Sally's Operations, and then create a new one using the Add button on the Home tab. I'm then given the choice of a standard or union one. I'm only interested in the first for now, so I'm going to click OK. I can then enter a name for it, which I will call Sales Rep Report. A dialog then appears asking me to select a data container. I'm going to stop here for a moment to explain what containers are. In Sage Intelligence, the definition of the query that is executed against your database to extract the necessary information when a report is run is referred to as a container. Containers are created and managed in the connector module, and a number of standard ones are provided. They are usually designed to return a specific set of data, for example, sales or inventory information, and you can see the ones that are provided for my accounting package in the list on the screen. All standard reports make use of one, and since the dashboard I'm creating is based on my sales, I'm going to select the customer sales one. If you have a connector license, then you can create your own containers to access data not provided by the standard ones. This is a topic for a more advanced lesson though, so I'm not going to talk any more about it. You can think of a container as one large table combining information from a number of smaller ones in your database. And once you click OK, a list of all the fields that are available are shown. You can then pick the ones you want to use. For my report, I'm going to select the first one, which is my region names, then my customer names, extension amount, which is my total sale amount for each product per invoice, gross profit, invoice date, invoice number, item code description, which is my product descriptions, quantity sold, salesperson name, unit cost, and unit price. The initial steps to creating my report are now complete, and I can continue. You'll see it added to my folder in the Report Manager. I can run it out now, and I'm going to do this in a minute. There are just a few more things I want to discuss. Selecting the container and fields for a report will determine the raw data for it. These aren't the only options though. As you can see, if I select mine, a number of tabs are shown in the Report Manager. These are Properties, Columns, Filters, Parameters, Sort Fields, and aggregate filters. They provide further settings and ways to craft the data for it. Since we are nearing the end of our time for this lesson, I'm only going to touch on the Properties tab now. I'll then take a few minutes at the start of the next video to discuss the rest of them. The Properties tab holds a number of standard and advanced settings for a report, and you can toggle the display of the advanced ones using the Show Advanced checkbox at the bottom of the window. Under the Basic Settings is the Report Template field, and you'll notice that one has not yet been assigned. This will be done the first time you run out your report and save the workbook back to it using Save Excel Template. Below that is the option to include parameters on the second sheet. I'm going to leave this checked for my report. I also mentioned earlier that the source sheets in an out-of-the-box report are hidden by default. Under the Advanced Options is a setting to hide the source data. This doesn't apply to the parameter sheet, though. There is, however, another way to conceal sheets, and that is simply by hiding them in the workbook once a report is run out and then saving the template back to it again. Then, when the report is run out after that, only the sheets that were left visible will be shown. I'm going to leave the Hide Source Data option unchecked in my report. I'm not going to worry about any of the other settings, and I'm going to click Run. Notice that it doesn't include any runtime parameters and opens with Sheets 1 and 2 visible. You can see that the fields included in the first sheet are the ones I selected when I added the report, and the report details are shown on the second sheet. At this point, Excel functionality can be used on the raw data to start creating layouts from it, but I'm going to leave this till the next lesson. In this video, I've introduced you to pivot table reports by discussing some of those provided out of the box in intelligence reporting, running one of them out, and explaining its structure. I then moved on to creating my own report based on an existing container, discussed some of the basic options for it, and ran it out to get a basic idea of it. I also reminded you that before creating ones of your own, you should first check to see if they aren't available through the report utility. Even if one isn't exactly what you're after, it may be easier to download and edit it rather than build it from scratch, and this will save you time. In the next and final lesson, I'm going to start off by beefing up my own report using some of the other options available in the Report Manager, and once run out, we'll begin constructing my dashboard. As always, I hope you will join me as it will help round off this section of knowledge on report creation in intelligence reporting.